Yo, what's going on, everybody? How you feeling, bro? How you
I'm
feeling?
good, man. I'm good. Hey, countdown to spring break for me. 4 more days.
Okay.
4 more days, 3.5. I call it 3.5, actually. I get out early on Friday.
Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, man. My baby girl, she her spring break is happening now, so I'm gonna spend some time with her. I'm actually being honored this tomorrow at the Bulls game.
Oh,
Um,
that's dope.
yeah, bro, it's dope, but it's kind of like it's just different, you know. I'm like, man, okay, this is cool. You know, the brigade said that they was looking for people, and I got selected. Uh, but it's been tough, right? Because I done beefed up a little bit. So my uniform ain't, it fit, but it's a little tight, man. So they
Yeah.
talking about being there early, to set up, to do like activities or whatnot. And I'm like, oh man, like I'm gonna be restricted a little bit, but
I'm sure it look good on camera.
yeah, bro. So it's all good. I'm actually getting my some of my service stripes sewn on and everything, man. It's like it's crazy because when you live intentionally like we do, things start to flow in your life, and then you look up, you're like, man, I've accomplished that, man. Look, I remember I had like two. I had used to only have like two ribbons on my chest. You feel me?
Yeah.
So that's real different, bro. But it's definitely a huge blessing. Things have really come full circle. So it's really outstanding. How you feeling, brother?
I mean, overall, I'm good, man. Chilling.
You beating this inflation?
Hey, I ain't even thinking about it too much, to be honest with you, because
Okay,
I'm not really spending money like that.
okay, outstanding. And
So I,
so go ahead. What you saying?
I was gonna say I'm still buying eggs.
You know what I'm saying? He said no matter what the price is. Uh, yeah, hey man, you gotta eat, man. You gotta eat. And I think that's the thing though. Is like a lot of people they think that surviving inflation is about buying less food, right? They think it's about eliminating entertainment, right? You can't go out, you can't do nothing. Like you trapped in the crib, you know what I'm saying? Eat some ramen. You feel me? Or not traveling, like not going anywhere, right? But the truth is, on the other side of things, what inflation actually looks like for those who are intentional, for our bag, not only bag talkers, but our bag walkers, it's putting together a budget. We harp on this all the time, right? Putting together a budget, prioritizing your entertainment and making smart travel decisions. So what does that look like for the Hudson household?
Well, putting together a budget, bro. I mean, every single month, like we're always reviewing at the end of the month, like exactly how much we spent. But I mean, throughout the month, we're always like calculating how much money we have left to spend in that category. So we
Okay.
actually did an episode about how to budget. I think a year ago, and I went through
Mhm.
the everyday, every dollar app. So how much do I get in my church? How much do I spend on food? How
Mhm.
much for gas in the car? How much for restaurants? How much for fun or whatever, right? So like
Mhm.
we go through the budget and we make sure we put everything in throughout the month, and then at the end of the month we review it. Now,
Okay.
when it comes to inflation and the restaurant budget, we have been red for like the past 3 months or so because things have increased in price. But at the same time, all we got to do is just revisit the budget, increase, you know, uh, how much we're going to spend in that category because every year we're also making more money.
That's
So
dope.
it's really not that bad.
Okay, so in that category, when you talk about the red, are y'all using a spreadsheet to calculate that out?
So I just use the Every Dollar app,
Okay,
and
in the app. Okay.
in the app, when you overspend in a category, it turns red.
Oh, okay.
So like let's say for groceries, our budget is $300, and we
Mhm.
spend $300.01. That $300 turns into red.
Okay. Outstanding. So the you said every dollar
Mhm.
app, right? Okay.
Yep, my
Yeah, I'll go
Dave
check that
Ramsey.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
bro. That's that heat, man. I do it a little bit different with like my notes and my spreadsheet because it makes it just easy to copy and paste, hit the buttons real quick. But I've been utilizing the app called Notion for
Mm.
podcast stuff and just different content and different things like that. So I might go in there and go in a little bit deeper and make it do some calculations. Because there's also artificial intelligence, so it can kind of build out some things that I needed to make happen. Shout out to 𝗬𝗂𝗽𝗽𝗍 Productions. We appreciate you, family, for tuning in. And so, when it comes down to the budget, we're gonna kind of walk the dog here like we normally do. First, we're gonna talk about understanding inflation, and then we're going to talk about the impact of inflation on savings, right? And then we're gonna go into strategies for saving during high inflation. And you found a phenomenal article that'll be linked in the description of this video that talks about different methods. And I'll talk about my strategies. You'll talk about your strategies, and we'll walk the dog on this one. Hey, shout out to Zora. What she say? Just like any relationship, you have to make adjustments as you learn your relationship with money. Yeah, and you got to relearn that relationship with money too, because like every step, not to get in that spot. It's beautiful that she said that, because not to get in that spot where you're making adjustments based off of making more money. You're loving on the money that you currently have, you know what I'm saying, and then planning it out, right? So that's super dope. Shout out to Zora.
Yeah, shout out to the wife.
And so when we're looking at, understanding inflation, I can break it down like this. Imagine, so say, you want to buy a house, right? Inflation makes things, that we want to buy cost more than they used to, right? So say that house is $500,000, right? If we're looking at, inflation, what I'm saying, and we're talking about if that next year that house goes up and it costs $520,000, that's inflation, right? Mm-hmm. It's inflated, it's an inflated price, right? But a lot of people don't understand the thing about inflation is it's also based off of what people would need to build homes in the market as well, right? So you want that new crib, but you got to think about the wood, right? You got to think about the concrete, you know what I'm saying? And then when the cost of goods go up, they charge that to the people, and they have to make those homes, so they charge it back to the people. So they charge us the money that they use for labor, because they're just not going to sit there and make less money because of inflation, because they got to pay bills as well. So the market kind of keeps cycling itself back to charge itself again. But for those who are less fortunate, it becomes a way bigger problem. Even for people who are more fortunate, it becomes, because their dollar isn't worth nearly as much. And so if they were trying to retire, their retirement savings also may not be as high. What says Shawn on understanding inflation?
Yeah, when I think about inflation, I pretty much think about the exact same thing. Like, things cost more like than they did in the future than in the past, but everything also kind of moves up too. Like inflation when it comes to like how much you get paid. Like, for instance, I think we get like 2% every single year in our pay, right? And they're trying to keep up with inflation because 2% is normally what the inflation rate is. But like in a case like right now, in 2023, after the whole pandemic and whatnot from 2020 or whatever, 2019, everything has increased so much more than 6% over the past 3 years, 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it's like now our income isn't keeping up with inflation, right? Mm-hmm. And we're kind of losing our lifestyle. When I say losing our lifestyle, I mean taking a step back. Like, I remember the first time this happened to me when I started working, when I was making $27K, like that next year, I got 2%. It was only like, I don't know, $300 or something, or 2% off of 27,000. Mm-hmm. But then I realized, like, wait a minute, my Netflix is going up, like my rent is going up, my gas is going up, my electricity is going up. And then I had to realize, like, wait a minute, I have to eliminate some things because I can't pay for everything that I once used to be able to pay for. So I ended up like cutting back on cable because I'm like, you know what? Cable isn't important to me. I'm not even at home to really watch it like that. I'm always working anyways. So I cut back on things that I didn't need.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get to that when we get to our the strategies for saving during high inflation. We got even more for you because they actually touch on that in the penny hoarder on the penny hoarder application. And so that brings it back to, because the problem is now, like you said, our income is not matching up with inflation, and you're in a blessed and kind of privileged position, and they were looking at the 2%. Most people don't, their jobs, they're not careers, so they're not looking at matching the rate of inflation. They just tell them to go to work for the same money. And it's very hard for the person at the bottom or the person that's trying to get ahead and create a career later, right, to go to their boss and say, hey, I need a raise. I remember when I was in college, I was like, hey, can I get a raise? And it had nothing to do with inflation. But he was like, how are you going to add value to this organization so that way you can get that raise? Because my job wasn't directly tied to the dollar. So I couldn't break it down and explain it. Now, if I would have had the data and the information, somebody would have kind of walked me through, the finance talks that we actually have about the bag. I probably would have been able to kind of justify some things, right? I'm like, okay, how many people do you know that can do it this way, right? But at the same time, we have to look at what type of job and what type of role we're in. If we're easily replaceable, if it's a position that anybody can do and you're not specializing, they probably won't give you that raise because they don't have to. It sounds bad, but at that point, you're expendable. And so I think this brings it into, the inflation, right? So if you're at the bottom, and I've been at the bottom, like we've been at the places where, we was working minimum wage jobs and things like that. It's important to understand savings. We talk about savings all the time, right? But one of the big things about savings is there are times where, people are like, oh, I'm going to go to this bank for a certain interest rate, right? But the problem is interest rates also don't keep up necessarily with inflation. And the reason why I'm using the 500K analogy is because it brings it full circle to where it's a big enough number where you can see the percentage actually matter to you. I'm glad that you looked at the micro of, that the 27,000 whatnot that you was making and saying this is only 300, and then you had to pull back or whatnot, because those things, Netflix used to be like, it felt like pennies on the dollar, right? So that's huge. So if we're looking at the impact of inflation on savings, right? So say you have $500,000 and your interest rate is 1%, right? That after that first year, you got your 500K in there, you about to go, you looking to buy a $500,000 house. You're like, okay, I'm gonna get it. You know what? Even if they go up 505K, right? I'm still gonna be able to afford that house because I get 1% interest on my savings account. Now, and that's pretty high for like an average savings account. I mean, most savings accounts typically only give you it's like 20%. No, not 20%. It's like I want to say 0.36% or something like that. Like it's extremely low, right? And so it's like it doesn't even count for even that conversation because a lot of people don't, like we talked about, a lot of people don't have savings at all, right? So if we're really looking at it, it's that 1% interest rate on that 500K, you're trying to buy a $500,000 house, right? That's going to put you at $505,000 saved, right, after that year. But unfortunately, when you actually look at the interest rates, interest just went up, 6%, right? So now your money is worth less than that actual $500,000 home, because with the cost of inflation, we're actually looking at if they're trying to keep up with the cost of actual inflation, now that home is priced at $530,000. Now you're $25,000 short on that home, right? That's a huge major gap. Like that ain't something that you just make up overnight. Now, granted, if you're making $500,000, if you got $500,000 saved, you're pretty well off. But for the conversation, for using the analogy, it's one of those things. That's why inflation matters. When it's important that you look at things that you can cut back on that are maybe unnecessary. Maybe we don't buy that extra car. Maybe we don't get a new car this year. Maybe we wait a couple of years, we stack the bread, and then we get something a little bit different, right? Because cars, a lot of the features don't change that drastically, within, 3-4 years. 5 years, they might roll out with a new model. The body style might change, but a lot of the features really don't change. You got the Bluetooth, we don't do CD players no more, everything quick connect, like even some of the smallest cars, right? So we want to be very intentional on that. So when it comes to inflation and savings, what's your relationship with that?
I want to use your car analogy because I think you brought up a good point. So let's say I'm thinking about like a teenager maybe trying to buy a car for $5,000. And they like, you know what? I'm about to save, $1,000 a year, and then I'll be able to buy a car in 5 years. But what if, in 5 years, the car is 20% more, right? It's an extra $1,000. Now that means it is going to take you another year in order to save up that extra $1,000. But then what if inflation increases again? It's almost as if you can never buy the car, and it's the same car. It's the same car from 5 years ago. If somebody told you, oh, it'll be $5,000, back in 2019, and then now we in 2023, they like, oh, we want $7,000.
Yeah,
right. It's the exact same car.
Exact same car.
And you've been saving,
bro, with more time on it too.
That one
right?
number, bro. You've been focused on that one number, that 5,000, but you wasn't keeping up with inflation this entire time.
And that time depreciating over time, like they're not gonna give you any credit on that. They just gonna raise the price on you because they don't care. Because they own that. They own the vehicle, right? Now you taking on that liability. And as soon as you take that vehicle off the lot, the value drops again. Now you almost back at square one, right? So those are, things that you got to think about. Even when buying a vehicle, like sometimes it's best to pull the trigger when you can pull the trigger if you know that things are on a financial downturn, right? It got to a point where a lot of the luxury model vehicles was like the basic model, like the Chevys. They was actually, competing with the GMC Denali's and things like that, right? They were getting up there with that premium price. So sometimes you was almost better buying a premium vehicle if you could maintain that vehicle over, the life of that whole vehicle, right? You got the savings, you could do the maintenance, you stay up on top of the stuff. And sometimes it was better just to get the luxury vehicle, right? So if you're looking at it, so that's why it's very important to have a strategy, for saving during high inflation. And I'm gonna let you kick this off. So when it comes to, I look at the budgeting piece. What were your takeaways as far as putting together a budget for to combat the savings and inflation?
Make more money. Make more money, bro. I feel like if you make more money and you cut back on some of the things you don't need, like you should be able to make it work. So I'll give you an example. I use my life right now with Zora. So when we were dating, right? The only thing I was thinking about was like my dating budget with her. Like how much do I want to spend in order to go out to eat with her, or maybe I'll increase my grocery budget so I can cook at home. Right, that could be a choice. You don't always have to increase the restaurant budget. Why not increase the grocery budget, because it'll be a little bit cheaper, right? So that's a little hack right there, and you can cook for the girl or whatever. Anyway, so once, hey Zora, let's move in together, let's get married, all that good stuff, right? Fast forward a year later, we increased our going out budget. We increased our restaurant budget opposed to like what it used to be, but at the same time, like with us being married, it's a dual income. So a lot of things did increase, but at the same time, we both make, like, not only do I make more money, but like she also makes more money, and it's a dual income family. So it works for us that things increase in price and it doesn't really affect us, because the way I look at it, just using theoreticals, if I make 50,000 and she make 50,000, now we make 100,000. Like maybe the grocery budget before was $200, but now it's $400. It's okay.
That's beautiful. And the thing that you highlighted was living intentional, thinking about who your partner is and what they bring to the table. One thing that I highly recommend that people don't do is they don't marry based off of a Cinderella story. That person that's going to turn into the bride or the producer or the money maker that they want, right? Being realistic and looking at the facts, saying, okay, if we are going down this road and they're not on a certain career path, like they don't have a certain work ethic, don't add more struggle to your plate. That's a huge strategy for saving during high inflation, right? Because one thing that we saw during the pandemic, we saw people get married, we saw people get divorced. And one of the biggest causes of divorce is finances, right? But it's not necessarily how much that person's making per se, right? It's the career moves and how they're actually maneuvering in their relationship. Because I know from conversations that we've had about, you and your wife, is you led on the budgeting tip. Hey, let's manage this money, right? So that puts y'all in a total different position and possibly light years ahead if y'all ended up dating, being with somebody else, because it also takes her understanding, your wisdom and what you bring to the table. You was already on track with the finance piece, right? Now you just gonna blow it up and make it even better. And then that really changes the game, and that kind of leads to, I'm glad that you highlighted, you talked about, the food piece, right? Maybe we up, and it's beautiful that you actually look at the grocery budget and the dinner budget. You're like, okay, let's look at these things. Which one we can tweak a little bit. Shout out to the Every Dollar app and meal prep. Seriously, meal prep has changed my life, right? Because when I'm at work, sometimes I'll go on a tear because I'm starving, right? That midday starve. You're like, man, it's crazy. And I'm like, what can I eat? So now I meal prep rice, right? This week for lunch, it also keeps me on my diet, on my fitness tip. But I had some salmon and some couscous for lunch, and I just prepped it. I also bought a Ninja air fryer, so it saves me time, so I can save money, so I can focus on the things that I want to do. And by focusing on the things that I want to do, I go to work and I have a clear head. I'm not focused on what I'm going to eat for dinner. So and the cool part about the Ninja air fryer or Ninja Foodie, it's got air fryer 10-in-1, it's got broiler, all that stuff, and it costs a pretty penny. I think it was like $150. And I think maybe it was on sale for like $100. But when you put everything in there, you can cook your whole meal for the whole. You got your sides on the bottom, you got your meat in the middle, right? And then you pop that up, and then while you're doing something else, your dinner is it's on autopilot, right? But that saves me time and money. Now, when I get hungry, I'm not reaching for the vending machine. I'm reaching for the meal that I already prepped. And a bag of rice probably cost me like $3 at Aldi's. So if you've been intentional, literally 2 days of you eating snacks. And me, when I get a snack, unfortunately, when it comes to like junk food, I want one cake, then I want another cake. Pretty soon I just spent $3 when I could have bought a $3 bag of rice, right? That's gonna last me literally 2 weeks. That ROI is crazy. We at inflation's head at that point. Like, hey, inflation got to come and see us. You know what I'm saying? And so we got to be smarter, and intentional about that. And so this brings me to, the second piece for strategies that I was looking at was prioritizing entertainment, right? My problem is I don't do enough outside of grinding. Like, and I get results from it, right? But at the same time, it's not always healthy. I need a release so that way I can get back to a more effective grind. And right now I'm looking at it on a micro level. And so I'm like, I need to be smart. I don't need every streaming service. And it's really hard being a parent because I'm like, oh, baby girl gonna want to watch this, maybe she gonna watch this. And then if you actually look at what you're doing, look at the weekend, baby girl probably watched, the same streaming app, didn't care about none of the other ones. All the movies that she was contemplating, thinking she was gonna like, she wasn't even with them. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we hoping as parents, like, okay, I hope they like this. You know what I'm saying? And then the whole time they might not even like it, but they just didn't say nothing. You know what I'm saying? So keeping it simple, and being smart about your streaming services, going through and kind of doing that audit, like you talked about with the budget and cutting off things on a streaming service. What do you think about prioritizing entertainment? How do you do that?
That's a good question, bro. I mean, I'm just like you. All I do is work. I work like 11 hours every day. Like,
and when you enjoy what you do, it's different.
I leave late and I get home and I just have dinner with my wife and be like, all right, babe, I just want to play the game for like 1 hour, and that's my day. Like, I just be chilling with the wife. I play the game a little bit. I'm not going out all the time popping bottles and getting bottle service. Shout out to our episode on that. But yeah, like when it comes to entertainment, I don't really do too much. I mean, I guess Zora and I have begun hanging out with like more family. So like for instance, this past weekend we went up to Wisconsin because it was like my cousin's birthday or whatever. And the old Shawn years ago would have been like, nope, I'm not going. Like I could be saving that money, I could be using that time to get more money. But I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. Let's send them the $40 or whatever, and then they hit the little catering thing going on at the house with all the cousins and stuff. And we had a good time. We ate, we drank. It was fun. And then we drove back to Chicago, and it was an amazing time. So I wouldn't take that back. I wouldn't be like, what? It was wasting my time to go out there. I could have been making more money. Like, I was, bonding with my little cousins. I never get to really see them like that because they all the way in Wisconsin. So I don't take back or regret, me changing my lifestyle to have more fun.
Well, and a lot of times, man, sometimes it takes you to be in a different environment for you to actually relax and realize how much you actually missing, especially when you grind it, right? Because even with baby girl, a lot of times I'm like, man, you know what? Because I was gonna work, so I was gonna pick her up, and then take her to the game and then take her back. But I'm like, I found out she's on spring break. Like I might as well just kick it with her, you know what I'm saying? So I took some vacation days, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna bond with my baby girl. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you can't really beat that, man. Hey, if it costs me a little more, that's cool. But I'm gonna beat inflation because I'm like, I'm spending time with her. I spent time with her. Cool. Hey, we had a great time. Now I can get back to the bag and focus on, what the future looks like. One of the biggest that was one of like my biggest life changers. And she really forced me to step up because I'm like, I got this precious thing that I have to take care of and provide for. So I really got to step my money up. Because I'm gonna be honest, like I probably wouldn't be where I'm at now if it wasn't for that. Because I wouldn't have had to make no more money. Like it was just okay. I can afford everything. Like, dude, we very like okay. Got my fridge, got a bed, got you know what I'm saying. Like,
Right, I'm surviving. I'm good.
I'm like vacation. What's that? Like I'm like oh, okay. I'm gonna go out. And so my last one is looking at traveling smart, right? And so when it comes down to traveling smart, save money at the airport. Sometimes you'll get there and you'll have a cheaper vehicle that you can actually rent at the airport. You know what I'm saying, when you get off the plane. Every now and then you get on standby and actually get cheaper tickets, and it'll be a cheaper flight. For my military personnel, every now and then, if you go to a installation with like military, sometimes you can hop on a flight if they're leaving, they're going to a specific place. Now, it ain't no guarantee that you ain't gonna get pushed by some general or some admiral or a higher up somewhere, right? So don't go over that benchmarking if you got the whole family. Don't bring the whole family out there. Now, if you backpacking it, you saving up, you doing your thing, you kind of a nomad, that might be your thing, right? But look at those different flights and those different avenues. I found that now with the internet, man, they be bartering with these companies for like hotels and cheap hotels and stuff like that. It helps out so much. Zora, what she say? Oh yeah, they talked about this in the article. Bring your own snacks and empty water bottle. They have water stations where you can fill up. Yeah, because if you ain't got no liquid in there, ain't no ounces. Super smart, super smart. Next time I'm gonna do that. Hey, shout out to Zora. That's why we do this, right? Because I didn't even think about that. I didn't really process it like that. But if it's an empty bottle, now I can fill up in the airport. I ain't spending $3-4 on some water. You know what I'm saying? Because that adds up, fam.
Yeah,
You get a meal, you get the water
with you.
What'd you say?
You can take it on an airplane with you too. So now you don't got to buy no drinks. You just sit there and drink your water.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Once you get past the security, you fill that thing up. That's what we've been doing. She taught me that too.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's super dope. That's super dope, man. So just make sure that you're being intentional about everything you're doing and moving with a purpose. So what do you think? What's your conversation? What's your thought process on traveling smart?
I mean, Zora has been the one that's introduced me to traveling. I don't know if I told you this, but I just got my oh yeah, I did. I told you like last week. I had just got my passport, man. I'm excited to travel. One of the things that Zora does, we normally look like months in advance to see, where we're gonna go and how much it's gonna cost. We're supposed to be going to some wedding, and we had a conversation. Do we need to rent a car? Like, do we even need it? Like, could we just Uber? We calculated how much it would cost for Uber. Like, we're not even there yet, but we typed it in on the little app or whatever and was like, yo, how much does it cost to go from the wedding venue to the hotel? How much will it cost to go from our hotel to the downtown area? So we calculated how much it would cost to travel around using Uber, and we were talking about how we'll walk around and then take an Uber back. And then we realized, you know what? We don't actually need to rent a car because it's not just about renting a car, but you got to put the gas in too. So
that
stuff, we was like, you know what? We voted on Uber.
That's huge. When in that the calculation for the insurance. Now, if you ain't got the right insurance, y'all get an accident, that's on y'all, right? I had to do that calculation too. I find myself kind of rationalizing like around my dollars. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, you know what? I could rent a car, or I could use these miles, or I could get the Uber. So yeah, now that's huge. Like if you think about the long term, it's really dope. Shout out to Zora. She said also check with your job/company to see if they have discounted travel perks for staff, since they probably have company rates that you can take advantage of through a perk system. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
found out about that. Thank you, Zora. She was like, you know what? Let me log into my account, and then they had a whole little travel list, and we can get our flights for even cheaper price and our hotels for a cheaper price. You know, and if we did want to rent a car, it'd be at a cheaper price. So we just saving money, bro. Like we got to go anyway to the wedding. She in it, you know. But
Yeah.
now we found out ways that we can save some money since we got to go anyway.
Yeah, that's huge. Even like for my military personnel, they notice, hey, use that discount, tap in, see if they got them government rates, you know what I'm saying, before you get to traveling. Disney, they got whole discounts and packages, you know what I'm saying, before you dip out there. So, watch it, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they got a plane package, maybe they got something in there. There are actual Europe trips that I've been looking at. I've been a part of a group on Facebook. And I was thinking about going to Europe for my birthday, and they have packages where the flights are already included in a lot of this stuff, right? You just buy the whole package, it's good, it's already set up. But a lot of these companies, how they do it is, since they book a lot of things in groups, they get a lot of discounts because it's guaranteed money for a lot of the airlines and a lot of the resorts. So, stay intentional out there. What up, Zoe? We appreciate you, family. Tapping in, big dog, man. We ain't seen you in a minute. How you feeling? We really appreciate you tapping in, fam. Did you have any more on the inflation piece, or you think we kind of tapped into it enough?
No, that's pretty much it. But I do want to bring up that I had literally just put for next month's topics meal prepping. So I ain't want to talk too much about it right now because that's the topic that's gonna be coming up in next month.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that meal prep. Y'all stay tuned in, stay tapping in. We really appreciate y'all tapping in. I mean, it means a lot to us. And it means a lot. Go like, comment, subscribe, check out the YouTube channel. We're gonna have a lot of dope content coming out in the future. We're also on Twitter at FX2GL. We also got, at the Hungry Millennial on Instagram. Check us out. We always got reels and stuff coming out about leadership and just different things that we should be in tuned in, tapped into: the fitness, the finance, the growth, and the leadership tip. Because once you start working on all those things, you're gonna see droves of success. Like your life is gonna go, from feeling super average to making a lot of things happen in your life, and people will start to gravitate to you. And Shawn can attest to this too, man. When your finances in tow, people, they talk to you differently because you have a different confidence about you. You're not jittery. You're not nearly as worried. You look confident because you are confident because you have a plan to get the bag, keep the bag, and secure the bag. So without further ado, we really appreciate y'all. This has been another episode of Bag Talk 101. I'm Tommy.
I'm Shawn.
And we appreciate y'all. Continue to tap in to FXTGL.